Hello there, welcome to the PC Flight Podcast. My name is Thomas, and this is not actually the first time we've done this. Thinking back to it, I think in 2014 we tried this and then stopped, and now I'm going to start it again. This is the weekly podcast. It's going to happen every Friday for the foreseeable future, and essentially it's going to follow a similar format every week, whereby we go through the news, see what's happened in the flight sim industry over the last 7 days, and have a look, and then also have a special guest. So I've got a special guest today. He's from Just Flight, and he's here to talk about the Cessna 152, which was released last week. But before I introduce him, we're going to take a look at the news that's happened in the industry last week. So on, the 12th of March, so when was that? I'm looking at my calendar. That was Monday this week. Aerosoft released some more previews of their upcoming Airbus Professional Series. Now, I'm so excited for this. The Airbus series of aircraft that Aerosoft have released are fantastic, but this is the Professional Series that they're releasing with more features and compatible with P3D version 4. So in a post to the Aerosoft forums, Matthias Koch wrote that it was an end-of-the-week update, lots of bug killing apparently. I love the way he wrote that, lots of bug killing, and actually they've got the number of things down, so there's only new development going on. Is in the Immersion Module. Now, the Immersion Module is what sets this product apart from the rest of it. If you've seen the previews before, you will have probably remembered the coffee cups and the newspapers. They've now added, in this preview, they've added a door camera, which I think is very cool. So essentially the idea is that you, send a call to the back asking for a cup of coffee, and then 2 minutes later, a flight attendant will turn up. And then you have a look at the camera before you open the door, and then they'll bring in your coffee. And the coffee, which we've already seen, will appear on the desk in front of you, along with maybe a newspaper. Who knows? But apparently this week they've did some sound recordings for the flight attendant, so that you obviously hear the doorbell. I don't think it's like a traditional doorbell. That would be quite funny if it was. Then you check the door camera apparently, and then unlock the door. And then obviously they've got voices and stuff, similar to FS to Crew. And then she gives you a coffee, which is quite cool. And then also, apparently, this is also quite good news. TFDI Designs they've partnered with Aerosoft, and they're implementing their True Glass and Real Light modules. So the True Glass module is realistic rain effects on the front of the aircraft. So when you're looking at it, it's like more realistic than what we've seen before. And then Real Light is a lighting module, which TFDI Designs has made. They've partnered up with Aerosoft, and it's going to be featured in the Aerosoft Airbus Professional Series, which is quite good. Apparently, they're still very GPU demanding, so they're having to shave off a few megabytes here and there. And then after release, they need to see if they're forced to make models without these enhancements. Apparently, if you look at the previews, they are beautiful previews. They've really stepped up the quality. Also in this update / preview / whatever you want to call it, some sound demos have been released by TSS, or Turbine Sound Studios. They've released the sounds for the Aerosoft Airbus Professional Series. Sounds very good, of course. I think it does. So if you want to look at the full article, it's on the website. It's on the main page, actually, so you can find it there. Next on my list of things that has happened in the industry this week, Turbulent Designs have released some previews and also announced that their Kilo Golf Papa India Glacier Park scenery has gone into beta. So they've announced that on the 13th of March. I don't know what day that was. What day was that? That was on Tuesday this week. So in a post to the website, the development team wrote that they are delighted to announce that KGPI is now in beta. They continued, of course, that beta testers will now be receiving a build of the scenery, which means apparently it's only a few weeks away from release, which is very exciting. They're going to be announcing a specific date soon. Of course, to celebrate the announcement, they couldn't shy away from releasing some previews, which they've done. And they feature the scenery in different times of day. And also, I think, in the rain as well, which is quite cool. It looks very good quality. It is apparently a P3D version 4 exclusive scenery, so it's not going to be available for any other versions of P3D or FSX, which is a bit sad for those that currently use FSX. But, times are changing. And they've also They're using SODE as well, which will be a dynamic feature which changes in real time, apparently, which is very good, which is quite exciting. Now, something that I was so excited about, whenever I see the Eaglesoft flight simulation studios have released a preview, I literally fall off my chair because their stuff is absolutely beautiful. And on, what was it, the 14th of March, they released some previews of their Citation X. It is a sleek, sexy jet. It's Generation 3 for them as well, so third generation for them. They released previews featuring the exterior modelling of the aircraft, which in what looks like a simulator environment, it might be, it might not, who knows. I think it is. If it is, it looks fantastic. If it isn't, then it's just a CAD model. But it's going to join other aircraft in the Generation 3 line, like the Citation Mustang, which they're also working on, and the XLS Plus as well, which are also currently in development. We haven't actually heard from Eaglesoft about the Citation X since December last year, and it looks to have come on significantly since then, because back then it was most definitely in the early stages of CAD or computer-aided design, and now it looks to be in the sim, which is fantastic, and it's coming along nicely. I'm assuming next we'll probably see something of the aircraft in liveries, which would be very, very good. Now we turn our attention in the next news story to FS2 Crew. They've released their first mobile app. Now, a bit of a shock. Didn't expect this. I don't know whether they announced that they were doing anything like this, but they just released a mobile app. You may be wondering, well, what exactly does this app do? Well, they've called it Pilot Assist Pro, and I guess if you can think of it as being a virtual flight bag. They said, quote, it's a long-awaited new iPhone, iPad aviation app called Pilot Assist Pro is now ready for download on iTunes. Now, if you picked up on what I just said, it is only available for Apple devices at the moment. Now, I don't know whether they've got any plans to bring it to Android, but I can tell you now, when I posted this news article, the majority of people in the comments were, well, doesn't look like it's coming to Android. What a surprise. I mean, that was sort of a quote from a comment. But yeah, it is slightly disappointing, especially as I have an Android phone, that it's not coming just yet to Android devices. But apparently, if you're thinking, well, what does it do? Well, it's got checklists in it for the PNGG 737, the 747, the 777. It's got checklists for the Majestic Dash 8 Q400, the Airbus A320. It's got Leonardo's Mad Dog in there as well, and Quality Wing 787, among many, many more of the best FS aircraft, apparently. Now you're thinking, how much does this thing cost? Again, another complaint from people is the cost, but when you think about what it actually has in it, it is very good value for money. It's $49.99 as a one-off payment. So you get all of that for one-off payment, plus loads of very exciting features, which is good. It's got charts on it as well. It's got a scratch pad in there as well, which is quite good. But there you go. FS2 Crew Pilot Assist Pro is now available on iTunes for download. And then the last final news story before we go on to the big one. It's Carenado have announced that another one of my favourite aircraft, the Saab S340, is on final. They said that it's coming soon, and to celebrate this, of course, they released some previews. Just to give you an idea, they said it was coming soon, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, which means they were shouting it very, very loudly at the screen. In relation to the time schedule of release, not too sure, but usually when they say it's coming soon, it means it's a matter of weeks now, not months. So the aircraft has been in development since September of last year and is definitely going to be available for FSX and P3D upon release. Now, along with the announcement, of course, they released a set of previews of the aircraft, showing off the exterior and interior of the aircraft in full liveries. It's coming with many, many liveries, including Flybe. It's got, what else is it? Scotland's Airlines. It's got Logan Air, which is among many others that operate the Saab S340 across the world. Now, I must say, they've got a preview of the cabin, and the cabin looks very impressive. I mean, how much time do people actually spend in the cabin? Who knows? But it is going to be compatible with GTN's, with Flight One's GTN 750, which is quite exciting for those that have that product. And now for the final news story. It's about the Just Flight Cessna 152. And to help me along with this, I, of course, have had to bring in the expert, Martyn Northall from Just Flight. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. So, of course, it's been released. How long has it been in development for?
I think the we started off with the model, which is the first thing to be developed, and I think that was started maybe about May last year, I think, if memory serves me correctly. That's that's where we start out with the exterior and the cockpit model.
And so, how did you go about doing that? Did you have to go and take loads of photos of the real thing?
Yeah, so we're quite lucky with this one really that it's I actually fly the 152 in real life, and the one that we based this on, which is Golf Bravo Golf Alpha Echo, is one of the 152s that belongs to my flying club. I've flown it quite a lot, so that made the research a lot easier because my flying club is about 10 minutes down the road from here. So I just popped over there and spent a couple of hours taking probably about 200 pictures, I think, various angles and the outside and the inside and everything else, and looking at all of the manuals and the checklists.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're in a lucky position because you've flown the real aircraft, and now there's a version of it in the sim. I mean, how do they compare?
Visually, they're basically identical, and obviously in terms of the systems and the general functionality, they're pretty much exactly the same. Um, so yeah, it's very immersive and very good for a training tool. I think where these things always have the limitations, and I think that's the nature of Flight Simulator itself, is the flight dynamics can never be exactly like the real thing, but they're a very good likeness, and also you don't get that the same sort of immersion factor and the kind of seat the pants type stuff, but that's affects all aircraft in flight sim. But
Yeah,
other than that, it's obviously a very close likeness.
yeah, it's good. I mean, I fly. Funnily enough, actually, I fly the Cessna 152 in real life as well.
Okay,
And actually, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for a good version. Um,
it's strange there's not been one. I mean, it's taken us a while to get around to one. We did one, must be about 12 years ago now, and obviously Carenado did one about 10 years ago. And you'd think with it being such a ubiquitous, such a popular
yeah,
aircraft type that one would have been done by now. Again, a new one, but
yeah,
um,
it is a very, very popular training aircraft. And I mean,
fair enough.
I'm still learning, but when I was in the early stages of learning, I just wanted a version of the C152. But actually, they're quite different. Actually, inside, they vary very differently, don't they? In
They do.
terms of what's in them.
I mean, we've had a few bits of feedback already, sort of asking for different types of radios to be fitted, and someone suggesting that surely no aircraft are still fitted with such primitive avionics as what we've modeled. And it's like, unfortunately, maybe my flying club's just struggling for cash a bit, but yes, that is exactly the fit in the one we fly. But yeah, like you say, GA in general, it also affects military, but GA specifically is massive variations. And that's why we tend to we always try and pick one real world aircraft on which to base it.
Hmm.
The same we've done for all our in-house stuff, going to Canberra's, Tornado, Hawk, everything. There's always so much variation in aviation that if you pick one in particular, then you don't get distracted, and it doesn't get too confusing with all these variations.
Yes, yeah. I mean, what year's the aircraft? Do you know what year it is?
Early 80s, I think. Yeah, a little bit older than me, but I think it's early 80s.
No,
So it's not even a particularly old aircraft by 152 standards.
no. I
But
mean, the one I fly is 1977. So,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and I think this is just a prime example of a flying club aircraft that's not really undergone much in the way of upgrades. Obviously, that would change this year with the changes to sort of transponder requirements and radar requirements in the real world. They'll have to, but up until now, it stays largely the same as far as I'm aware for years. And I mean, in the real aircraft, the transponder doesn't even work necessarily. So, like I said to someone on one of the forums, we've actually done you a favour and included a functioning transponder, which
oh gosh,
isn't necessarily true to real aircraft, but that's welcome to the world of British general aviation. We have a bit of a lack of investment, I think.
yeah. What was the hardest part of developing this aircraft? Was there anything that stood out as being particularly difficult?
I mean, it's a relatively simple aircraft, obviously like
Hmm.
the real thing. I think the thing that's always most complex about these GA aircraft really is are the flight dynamics. Obviously, we've had real world 152 pilots helping with the testing, but even then, trying to get an exact match on the behaviour in terms of, the behaviour when you extend the flaps. Obviously, in the real aircraft, it causes a fair bit of nose up that you're constantly trying to trim out.
Yeah.
All those little intricate sort of details that the nature of flight dynamics in FSX and P3D specifically can make that quite challenging to. If you tweak behaviour in one area, it can mess up the behaviour in another, that kind of thing. So it's a real balancing act.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, obviously the avionics are relatively simple. I spent a fair bit of time trying to put in detail that I remember from the real thing, like the completely useless fuel needles.
Oh gosh, yeah, they just bounce around, don't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely useless.
And some of our testers that haven't flown this aircraft sort of quickly pointed out, well, what's wrong with the fuel needles? Are they broken? It's like, no, that's unfortunately exactly like the real thing. Where
they have literally no purpose.
No, none at all. No, they might as well just not even be there. But so I've tried to add little features like that and try and bring the aircraft to life a bit.
What is your favourite part of the aircraft?
Trying to think. Well, I do the sort of the gauge and the avionics coding. That's sort of my main job in addition to kind of managing the project. So obviously my kind of favourite aspect, I guess, is the kind of systems functionality. But I mean, just a general feel. I mean, the model and the textures are done very nicely. Obviously, having spent a fair bit of time on the real aircraft, you sort of appreciate the level of detail in the model, right down to, I think the certificates of airworthiness in the back of the aircraft are unique to each livery, depending on where they came from in the world, that kind of thing. It's and like the little glove box on the right hand side where you usually put your pitot cover and your control lock is animated. So sort of little touches like that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And well, what's next? What's next for the development team?
What have we got? I mean, for the current things I'm working on, we're working on. For X-Plane, we've got the Hawk T1 coming up,
very good.
which is a little bit different. That's our first sort of not GA aircraft for X-Plane, because obviously we've done the PA-28s so far. And after the Hawk, we're doing the TB10, TB20, so bring that over from FSX to X-Plane.
That's always a thing I've always wondered, actually. How hard or easy is it to actually convert something from the Microsoft platform to X-Plane? Is that a difficult process?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I have to sort of try and get across even to some of my own colleagues that I think the term conversion and certainly the term porting, which some people use, is almost a bit misleading, really. That there isn't much you can bring across. Really, the main thing that's reusable is the actual 3D model and textures, and even they have to undergo numerous changes. But yeah, you're starting from scratch in a lot of ways in terms of coding and logic. Obviously, all the reference materials there, and you can refer back to the FSX version to see how things should be functioning. But it's not a simple job by any means, which is why we have a separate sort of team handling that to the FSX prepared stuff that we do.
Well, that's good. I mean, for everybody that's listening, the Cessna 152 is, of course, available from the Just Flight store. It's compatible for Microsoft, most of the versions of, in fact, all of the versions of Flight Simulator, P3D version 3, 4, 2, 1, lots of compatibility, which is good. And it comes, with 8 liveries, I think it is?
Yeah, I think it's 8. We try and do generally a couple for the UK, a couple for America, which are kind of our 2 biggest markets. And then, France, Germany, Australia, try and cater for everyone.
Best part for those people that love doing IFR flying, it's fully IFR capable, which is good. And it's compatible with Flight One's GTN and GNS integration, which is good. It's £27.99, which is good. And a different subject, actually. Flight Sim Expo. Is Just Flight going to Flight Sim Expo?
We are, yeah. So this is a Vegas show, isn't it? We committed to that earlier in the year. So I think we've got everything booked for that. So that's beginning of June, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll be there with my colleagues Scott and Alex. So we'll be there from the Thursday, I think, to the Monday.
It's very exciting, isn't it? I booked my flights yesterday, so definitely going now, I guess.
Is that the first show you've been to, or have you been to Flight Sim Con?
I went to Flight Sim Con in 2016.
Okay.
Couldn't go last year, but yeah, so it'll be exciting, I think. What can we expect to see from Just Flight? Have you planned that yet?
We haven't gone into in much detail really beyond booking the stand, but we'll be showing off. Obviously, this is the first year where we've had a lot of X-Plane content to show, so we, maybe dividing it a bit more down the middle between FSX Prepared 3D and X-Plane. Hoping to have some of our X-Plane developers there as well. But I mean, yeah, we'll be doing the usual thing of showing off whatever's latest at that point, which I'm trying to think what that'll be then. We'll have obviously more up-to-date information on our sort of Avro Vulcan by then, and things like traffic and the Caravel, which we've just announced. We've also got another airliner and a couple of GA ones that we've not sort of publicly announced yet, but they'll probably be at the stage where they'll be being discussed by that point. So there'll be no shortage of content, and obviously just having a chat to the simmers really, and to all our customers. It's one of the highlights of our year really, is getting out there and speaking to people. Obviously we have our show in Cosford, which will be in October again this year. So we'll be doing the same sort of thing there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Martyn, for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure to have your company over the last however many minutes this has been. But of course, if you've got any suggestions about how we can do this better, or any new things we could do, you, of course, get in contact with me on my email. You can find it on the website. But in the meantime, we'll see you next week.